Night Teeth is the brand new Netflix original horror film just in time for Halloween that stars Jorge Lindenberg Jr., Debbie Ryan, Lucy Fry, Raul Castillo, Alfie Allen, Sydney Sweeney, and Megan Fox. Tell us more about this college student who is Benny, played by Jorge Lindenberg Jr. He's moonlighting as a chauffeur when he picks up two mysterious women that's played by Debbie Ryan and Lucy Fry, who we turn out are vampires, and as they are going through the underworld, he's learning new things and he must fight to stay alive. The film is an hour and 47 minutes and it's TV 14 on Netflix. Please, guys, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell. I do these types of movie reviews every single week: TV show reviews, streaming platform reviews, movie rankings, and a box office breakdown show. So you guys subscribe, ring the bell if you're new to the channel. Also, please comment down below your thoughts on this film. First of all, if you've seen Night Teeth already, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below in non-spoiler fashion. I can see this could be a really divisive film. Critics really are not liking it. I know fans are liking this a bit more than critics. Let's talk about that in the comment section down below. And also, if you haven't seen the film, tell me, will you check out this film? Have you seen the trailer? Have you seen the poster? Did you even know this movie was coming out? All that in the comment section down below. And also, please like the video, the thumbs up button, guys. That's how you support this channel. So let's talk about Night Teeth on Netflix. This is a film I had really low expectations for. I mean, really low expectations for. While I didn't get a trailer, I saw the poster, I saw the cast, and while the cast is extremely talented, for me, it just felt like a weird mix to me on paper. And it's a vampire film on Netflix, and normally vampire streaming films don't normally get the best budgets, and sometimes these movies, but the first 5 minutes I was actually really interested in this film. Watch, I was like, the lore here is actually could be built into possibly a franchise, honestly. I didn't know it was TV 14 also. I just sat down, watched the movie. The first 5 minutes, I'll go with my positives, my negatives, and I'll give you my score to 5 stars and my percentage on this film. So Night Teeth is a film that the positives for me, the best part really about this movie is our main character, who is again played by Jorge Lindenberg Jr., who I've seen in Bumblebee, who was probably his biggest role today. He was in Love, Simon and Alita Battle Angel and both Spider-Man Tom Holland films. So he gets around, but this is his first really main lead role in the movie, at least to my knowledge. And he was really great in this movie. He plays Benny, who's this, a college kid who's figuring out his music life, goes to USC, has his grandmother, has his half brother, and just doesn't know what he is getting into. His brother's trying to put so Jay is played by Raul Castillo as his half brother, and he asked Benny to be the chauffeur as himself. So as Jay, not as Benny, who he is. So that's kind of where the tension kind of comes, and he picks up these two women. He has just no idea who they are. He's just doing this for his brother. And then they turn out that they're vampires. And this becomes a whole list on how the vampires are trying to clear out this town in LA, to take over this town in LA and run shop. And while the humans and the vampires have a truce, it's still the vampires who are breaking that truce to kill. There's particular vampires who are trying to break this curse to run the town. So that's kind of an interesting plot. And the actual plot is actually really interesting. And there's so much lore here. The first 5 minutes really explore the relationship or the dynamic really between vampires and humans. And it really does fit. It feels like it could be a really great movie that's put into this. But as I said, Lindenberg Jr. is really great, and his chemistry with the character of Blair, who's played by Debbie Ryan, was really fantastic in the film. They had great chemistry. When it was just the two of them together, the movie really works. And I know I grew up with, obviously, Debbie Ryan being in Jessie, and like the Radio Rebel Disney Channel movies, all those movies that I was all those things I was growing up with. Debbie Ryan was a big part of that growing up. But now having seen her do some other stuff, the very controversial Netflix show she made a couple of years ago, I've seen her pop into things like Horse Girl, but nothing really major. This is the best I've seen her since Disney Channel. She's really good in this movie, not just because she's really enjoying playing this vampire character, but she actually just shows a human side, a side of a character that when you understand her background and how she became a vampire, her relationship with Lucy Fry's character. That's why Blair and Benny's relationship just really works, because Benny sees the human in Blair, not just the vampire. And I think that was really crucial in building that relationship. And for me, when they're two on screen together, the movie just clicks. They have great chemistry. You buy the relationship. Have you seen it in other movies before? Sure, but because the chemistry is so good, it makes the film really, really watchable as well. As I said, the world building is really, really fun. Alexander Ludwig, sorry, I forgot to say him in the cast. He's also in the movie. His bit in the movie is really, really fun as well. Obviously, I just saw him in Heels on Stars. He's such a good actor. Nice to see him get more work, and he's solid here. Alfie Allen kind of plays the stereotypical villain you've seen all these films before. And a lot of people, they're all over the promotion of the movie, which is Sydney Sweeney's character and Megan Fox's character. They're both together in one scene in the entire movie. So if you're expecting to see a lot of Megan Fox back in a vampire movie or Sydney Sweeney, they're in one scene and they're great in the one scene. But sadly, they're just totally wasted and really useless in this movie, other than just to help put names to make this more people see this movie. That's all they felt like when I was watching their scene, because their scene is great. Their outfits are fantastic. But when you actually think about the overall movie, you just forget about that scene altogether. It's just a meaningless thing to get two actors in there to put more name and credentials on this film. As I said, the main character is also really likable. You actually feel his conflict of desire to possibly fall in love with Blair. You also feel like, is she a to help out the vampires? Are they doing the right thing? Or his brother. Also, he has a lot of conflicting things going on in his life. He's a college kid. He's got a half brother. He's in this crazy situation, and you really feel the conflict with his performance. So I want to give Jorge all the credit in the world. He's really good in the movie all the way around. He's easily the most relatable character as well in the entire film. Also, the film has a cool lighting to it. There's a lot of neon type of lighting that's in the film that really enhances the movie and gives it a lot more energy than I thought it would have. Because going into this movie, I had very low expectations, but with the fact of how the way the movie looks really in general, not the way that it's shot, the way the movie looks, it looks really good. But let's talk about my negatives, because this movie is not a good movie really in general. The big issue is that while the movie has so much lore, and while the first 5 minutes is basically Debbie Ryan narrating all the previous history with the relationship between vampires and humans in this world, that basically is the tip of the iceberg on how far we get into the lore of this film, because this movie had so much lore that could have been so much more delved into us, that could have put a franchise over, and maybe they will do a franchise depending on how many people watch this movie. But the movie has so many interesting qualities, but they obviously want to focus you on this 3-person road trip, and it became a road trip really quick. Like, I think there's like a little background, as I said, with Debbie Ryan's character giving narration, then you get a little background of Benny's character, but then it's basically a road trip. He picks them up, and for the rest of the movie, they're together going through cars, going through different clubs, the rest of the movie. So I was a bit disappointed we didn't get any more lore. Also, I think the film should have been rated R. For this type of film, especially the film that the film is aiming for, it should have been more violent. They were going for like sex and violence and drugs and all the other things, but they really did have to hold back on a lot of those things. It's like you're about to get a sex scene, and then they move on to the next scene. There would be action scenes happen in the movie, but we're following Benny watching the action scenes happening, so you're not really seeing any of the violence the vampires are doing to these people during the movie. So it's a weird mixture, because the movie has a good feel to it and energy to it, but it was the wrong rating. They should have gone for the full R rating, because it would have made this movie a little bit more unique and distinct, especially when you have vampires going on. And this is kind of a sex, drugs, vampire film that I thought would have been way cooler done rated R. But because it's not, the film, you can feel, has its limitations because it's doing a TV-14 rating. As I said earlier, the story is really predictable. Characters have to make very convenient decisions to move the plot forward, especially there's one in the third act that our villain makes that I could not believe happened. Some of the CGI in this movie was one weapon that's used by one of the villainous vampire characters I just did not like. Didn't like. It was just the CGI was terrible. Some of the CGI in this movie is just bad in general. And I said, there's just a lot of wasted characters. I said, there's no reason for Megan Fox and Sweeney's characters. If they're great characters, but they were in the movie longer, I would have said that. But because they're in one scene and they're pretty forgettable once you think about how meaningless that scene is, it's a pretty forgettable scene in the movie. And I said, Alfie Allen's villain character is just another villain who gets literally no background other than he's dating Lucy Fry's character in the film, Zoe. So other than that being a connection to one of our 3 main characters, he is just so a forgettable, meaningless, and really bad villain in this movie. If the villain was more personal to all 3 characters, it would have worked more, but because it wasn't. So disappointing lore, with some bad CGI, and not going rated R was a big mistake. But overall, I had a lot more fun with this movie than I thought. The two main leads, really, well, Lucy Fry was good in this movie, but really, Jorge Landenberg Jr. and Debbie Ryan were really great in this movie, both of them together. But Landenberg does carry this movie for the most part. But her and Ryan do have great chemistry, and the way the movie looks and feels gave me a nice vibe. So while I had very low expectations, I'm not saying this is a good movie, but I think this is way better than I thought it would be. So I'm going to give Night Teeth a 2.5 out of 5, and I'm going to give this movie a 50% on the money. I think it's a 50% movie. It's an average movie, but as you said, as I said earlier, I thought it was going with very low expectations. So happy to say this is not one of the worst movies, not by a long shot, of the year. So enjoy Night Teeth. Critics are really slamming. If you watch it for what it is and you actually get connected with these characters, I think you'll have fun with this film. So that's my review of Night Teeth. Please like the video, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, comment down below. A lot more movie reviews are coming down. Reviews, movie, TV, and box office breakdowns are coming down this week. My review of Dune will be out tomorrow night, Thursday night on the East Coast time. So stay tuned for that Dune review. I'm also watching a lot of TV shows. Heels and Ted Lasso just finished up its season. I'm going to do a non-spoiler review for season 1 of Heels. I'll give you a spoiler review of season 2 of Ted Lasso. And then I'm also currently watching I Know What You Did Last Summer on Amazon Prime. When that show wraps up in a couple of weeks, I'll also give you a review of that show. And then a box office breakdown show will be on Monday. So see you guys then.